Let's get right into it. Number 7. Bureaucrat topples Berlin Wall. For 28 years, the Berlin Wall stood like a concrete scar across a divided city. Guards patrolled it with orders to shoot anyone trying to cross. Taking it down seemed impossible. But on November 9, 1989, one exhausted bureaucrat accidentally brought it all crashing down. Günter Schabowski was an East German government official who'd been handed a note about new travel regulations just before a press conference. The problem was, he hadn't read it properly, so there he was, fumbling through papers on live TV. Then an Italian journalist asked when it would take effect. Schabowski shuffled his papers, looking confused. Then he said the words that changed everything. As far as I know, immediately, without delay. Except that wasn't what the note said at all. The new rules were supposed to start the next day, with careful controls, but it was too late. The news flashed across East German television. The wall is open. Within minutes, thousands of people started rushing to the checkpoints. The border guards had no idea what was happening. Their radios were silent. Their superiors were panicking. Meanwhile, the crowds kept growing. The guards faced an impossible choice. They could open fire on their own citizens, or they could open the gates. One by one, overwhelmed and confused, they chose to open the gates. People poured through in disbelief. West Berliners met them with champagne and flowers. The party that night was legendary, all because one tired bureaucrat misread his notes at a press conference. Number 6. Boy Finds Tut. It's 1922 in Egypt's Valley of the Kings, a place that's been picked clean by tomb raiders for thousands of years. Most experts thought there was nothing left to find. Howard Carter had been digging in the scorching desert for 5 years straight. His rich backer was basically done with him. Carter was down to his last patch of ground that everyone else had ignored. Then on November 4th, something stupidly ordinary happened. A young water boy was setting down his heavy water jar. As he did, his foot scraped away some sand and hit something hard. Instead of ignoring it, he got curious. He brushed away more sand. There it was, a stone step cut into the bedrock. Carter rushed over, and they started digging like maniacs. More steps appeared, leading down to a sealed doorway. Behind that door was the tomb of King Tutankhamun, a pharaoh so unimportant that most people had forgotten he even existed. The tomb was basically untouched for over 3,000 years. The reason it was untouched is that decades after Tut died, workers building a bigger tomb nearby dumped all their construction debris right on top of Tut's entrance. They had no clue what was underneath. This accidental garbage pile saved the tomb from every grave robber for 3 millennia. When Carter finally broke through and looked inside, his boss asked what he could see. "Wonderful things," Carter said. That was the understatement of the century. Over 5,000 priceless artifacts were crammed inside. The famous golden death mask, golden chariots, jewelry that would make modern billionaires jealous, all because a water boy's foot hit the right spot at the right time, and because some ancient construction workers were too lazy to haul their trash somewhere else. If either of those things hadn't happened, King Tut might still be buried under the sand today. The discovery sparked a worldwide obsession with ancient Egypt. Number 5. Divine Wind sinks Armada. It's 1588. King Philip II of Spain is seriously ticked off at Queen Elizabeth I of England. He's got the world's biggest empire and decides it's time to teach England a lesson, so he launches the invincible Armada, 130 ships, 30,000 men, ready to invade England and kick Elizabeth off her throne. England is basically having a collective panic attack. Their navy is smaller. The Spanish fleet looks unstoppable. The Spanish plan was simple: sail up the English Channel, pick up more troops from the Spanish Netherlands. Then, the invasion would begin. But the English had some tricks up their sleeves. Their ships were smaller and faster. Their cannons could shoot further and reload quicker. Then came the fire ships. The English took old boats, stuffed them with flammable materials, and set them on fire. They sent these floating infernos straight into the Spanish fleet anchored at Calais. Absolute chaos. Spanish captains cut their anchor cables to escape. The tight formation broke. Ships scattered everywhere. As the Spanish tried to sail home around Scotland and Ireland, a monster storm appeared out of nowhere. Not just bad weather. Violent gales that would later be called the Protestant wind. The Spanish ships had no anchors left. No safe ports to hide in. The storm battered them relentlessly. Dozens of ships smashed against the rocky coasts. Thousands of sailors drowned. Those who made it to shore often met hostile locals or English troops. At least a third of the mighty Spanish fleet was destroyed, not by English cannons, by wind and waves. The English couldn't believe their luck. Many thought it was divine intervention. Queen Elizabeth even had medals made with Latin text that basically said, "God blew," and they were scattered. Weather forecasting didn't exist back then. This storm seemed to come from nowhere at exactly the right moment. The invasion was stopped not just by ships and strategy, but by a wind that many believed came from heaven itself. Number 4. Messy Lab Miracle. It's 1928. Dr. Alexander Fleming is a brilliant scientist with one tiny problem. His lab was famously a chaotic mess, stacks of old experiments, cultures growing in corners. Fleming decides to take a vacation, leaving behind a bunch of Petri dishes covered in bacteria. When he gets back, he starts sorting through the disaster zone. One dish catches his eye. It's contaminated with some blue-green mold, the same stuff you'd find on forgotten bread. Most scientists would have just tossed it, but Fleming spotted something peculiar. Around this blob of mold, all the bacteria had been completely wiped out. It was like the mold had created an invisible force field of death. He realized he'd stumbled onto something massive. That mold was producing a substance that murdered bacteria on contact. He called it mold juice at first. Fleming had to be messy enough to leave dishes lying around. He had to go on vacation at exactly the right time. The mold spores probably floated in from another lab downstairs. If the wind had blown differently that day, no penicillin. London had an unusually cool spell while he was gone. This let the mold grow before the bacteria could take over. A few degrees warmer, and the bacteria would have won, hiding the mold's secret forever. Fleming knew he had something special, but turning moldy goop into medicine was another story. For years, it was just a weird lab curiosity. Then the Second World War happened. Soldiers were dying from infected wounds by the thousands. A team at Oxford University finally cracked the code for mass production. Suddenly, infections that meant certain death became treatable, all because a messy scientist forgot to clean up before vacation. Without that perfect storm of accidents, millions more could have died. Number 3. Soldiers unlock ancient Egypt. You're a French soldier in 1799, sweating buckets in the Egyptian heat, demolishing some crusty old wall. Your job that day was literally hitting rocks with hammers. Then, you find this weird black rock covered in squiggles. The rock had 3 different types of writing on it. One looked like Greek, which was basically the only ancient language anyone could still read back then. The other 2 were complete gibberish. One had these cute little pictures, birds, eyes, squiggly lines. The ancient Egyptians really went all out with their emoji game. This stone had been sitting in that wall for over 1,500 years, just chilling there, holding the secrets to an entire civilization. It was originally carved in 196 BC as some boring government decree. The stone was basically an ancient Google Translate. Same message, 3 languages. What kills me is that there were actually 27 other similar stones out there, but this one found by accident by some sweaty soldiers became the superstar. Without this random discovery, we'd still be looking at pyramids going, "Nice triangles, but what do they mean?" The whole thing sparked this massive nerd fight between scholars trying to crack the code first. A bunch of soldiers looking for rocks to build stuff accidentally gave us the key to understanding thousands of years of history. Next time you're doing boring manual labor, remember you might be one hammer swing away from changing the world. Number 2. Chance shapes our past. Everything we know about the ancient world exists because it won a cosmic lottery. Most of human history just vanished. It rotted away, burned up, or got buried under centuries of dirt. What survived is like finding a few singed pages after a library fire and trying to piece together every book that was there. Take the Dead Sea Scrolls, some of the most important religious texts ever discovered. Their discovery was pure chance. In 1946, a shepherd named Juma Muhammad Khalil was looking for a lost goat. He threw a rock into a cave out of boredom. The rock hit pottery. Inside those jars were scrolls that had been sitting there for 2,000 years. If that goat hadn't wandered off, if he hadn't thrown that exact rock into that exact cave, these priceless texts might still be hidden. Entire fields of study exist because a goat got lost. Sometimes an entire ancient author's work survives only because one copy got forgotten in some remote monastery. It sat there for centuries, missed by fires and wars, purely by chance. What we know about the past isn't what was most important. It's simply what got lucky enough to survive, and then got lucky again when someone stumbled across it. Number 1. Wrong turn starts World War I. Sarajevo, June 28, 1914. Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary is parading through the city. Some Serbian nationalists are not fans, to put it mildly. They've got assassins lined up along the route. The first attempt was a total flop. One guy throws a bomb, but it bounces off the Archduke's car and explodes under the next one, injuring some officers. Most assassins scatter, thinking it's over. The Archduke is shaken but continues with his day. The driver, unfamiliar with the revised route to the hospital, takes a wrong turn down a side street. As he tries to reverse the big, clunky car, it stalls. And standing right there was Gavrilo Princip, one of the original would-be assassins. The Archduke's car is now a sitting duck. Mere feet away, Princip steps forward, draws his pistol, and fires. Those 2 shots didn't just end 2 lives. They lit the fuse for World War I, a conflict that reshaped the entire globe and led to millions of deaths, all because of a driver's mistake and an assassin being in the right place at the absolute worst time. One single, unplanned, impossibly coincidental street corner encounter. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.